Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Business Spotlight. I'm your host, Todd Rodden. I'm a certified executive and business coach. I own Aspire Action Coach here in the Dayton, Ohio area. Thrilled to have you join us. I think you have a very intriguing story here with Josh Gratsch of Ascend Innovations. Really a unique provider on the leading edge of really the crossroads of bringing analytics to bear to solve complex health issues in our society today. So again, we thrilled to have the first time viewers here. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button as you receive future messages like you're going to hear from Josh here today. So without further ado, Josh Gratsch, Send Innovations. Welcome to the Business Spotlight. We're thrilled to have you. Take a minute, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about Ascend and how you got started in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Todd. Josh Gratsch, I'm the president and CEO of Ascend. First and foremost, I have been married to my wife, Mariah, for going on 10 years. I've got three little kids. James is 8, Maggie's 5, Remy's 2. And so, a lot of my time goes there. I do, coaching of some of my son's sports and things of that nature. Um, Absolutely love leadership, and that's something that has been developed over time as I've grown alongside Ascend. Like my purpose and what I look forward to and coming to work every day is helping others realize that they are more capable than they can see. So I had, probably ask about some of my story and growth within Ascend, but I had people that really opened doors for me and saw things in me, especially from a leadership perspective, that I couldn't see for myself. And, for me, that's something I feel really motivated to pay forward. And so first and foremost, that's something that I really seek to embody is continuing to learn as a leader, which Ascend has afforded me a ton of opportunities in. And so my background's in math and operations research. So my training is in data science. Started out as with a lot of people here in Dayton on the defense side. So both as a contractor and civilian at Wright Pat for the Air Force. Spent some time doing that, including while I was doing my master's at the Air Force Institute of Technology. Had an opportunity to jump out and do some work, some contract work for the Department of Homeland Security. It was called the National Collaborative for Biopreparedness. So we were doing some data collection throughout the country for syndromic surveillance purposes. Long story short, it got me really interested in healthcare data. And at that time, Ascend was stood up by the 3 hospital networks in Dayton. And I saw it as a really great opportunity and a really interesting collaboration within the community, and joined Ascend about 8 years ago as a data scientist. And I was really uniquely positioned to help refound the company. So what it was originally founded to do has evolved. And today we're a behavioral health data and technology company that aims to align data with the design of programs and services. So when you think about somebody from a behavioral health standpoint that's interacting with various facets of the system, they're touching a lot of different organizations. And the big gap today is that there's not always accessibility, visibility, and connectedness from a data standpoint. And so we, as a team of primarily technology folks, are aiming to close that gap by creating solutions that create some of that connective tissue such that these organizations communicate and collaborate more effectively, especially when it comes to getting people connected to services. So it's been a great experience so far. Continuing to learn every day.
So interesting. Kind of talked about how you refounded and pivoted the business, Josh. So maybe for folks listening, maybe take a minute, talk about how you view your customers, because I hear, hey, hospital networks. I could see healthcare providers, obviously individual, patients and consumers. How does that all work?
Yeah. The original thesis of us beginning to evolve Ascend started when Dayton was labeled worst per capita in overdose deaths. And the hospitals challenged us to try to figure out how we could make an impact, especially at that time as we were beginning to aggregate data. So as you think about the behavioral health continuum, much of what we've been able to pull together as hospital encounters, jail bookings, jail encounters, interactions with the court, treatment, encounters, interactions with Dayton City Police Department, crisis intervention team interactions, right? So you're really thinking about a lot of those programs within the community that are providing services to folks. And the big question was, okay, well, how do we operate in a way that one, we have sustainable funding, right? So who's paying for this? And two, such that we can figure out how, when we pull these solutions together, that it's going to make the maximum impact on organizations as a whole. And so what we gravitated towards was beginning to build relationships with a lot of the governmental and community organizations that have more of an oversight role across the continuum. So they have various responsibilities and decision-making authority when it comes to, well, how are we aligning funding? How are we designing some of these programs and services? And so within Ohio, that looks like an organization called a recovery board, which every county has, that's designed to manage and oversee behavioral health services across the continuum, health departments, et cetera. Oftentimes they're county organizations. And so we're really working hand in hand with them, especially with Ohio being a home rule state. So while we have state level agencies that align a lot of the funding from a federal level, and that comes down to the local level, but the local level then oftentimes has more of the onus to design some of the policies and procedures to how that funding is allocated throughout the various communities. And so, we've really worked hard to navigate, like, okay, how do we align with some of the state level strategies while making sure that we're hitting on some of the nuance that exists within the community, because every single county, every single community throughout Ohio is a little bit different in how they're delivering a lot of the services when it comes to the topic of behavioral health.
Uh, Sounds complex in terms of trying to manage those different constituents, right? So how do you keep that organized and then focus? And again, is your focus primarily in Ohio or also other states as well?
As of now, it's primarily focused in Ohio, right? We started in Dayton. That was really our test bed in Montgomery County. Slowly started to branch out more regional to the greater Dayton area. And then from there, we had a fundamental thesis that, hey, if we can connect these data sets across the community, we believe we can truly impact how these organizations are coordinating care. The big question was, well, we're owned by the three hospital networks in Dayton, so getting access to data here was relatively straightforward. Could we do that in other regions where these hospitals don't know who we are? And so we've adopted a mindset of consulting first, of really thinking about strategy and then solutions, because a lot of these organizations, when we think about behavioral health, community health, they're pretty far behind from a technology perspective, much more so than healthcare. And so we come in first thinking through a strategic consulting lens of, like, how can we help them understand, if we can pull these data sets together, here's a vision for where we could go in terms of how that data can begin to integrate within their daily operations and workflows, and much of the decisions that they're making on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. And from there, then we can start to help them craft a roadmap for a set of solutions that would actually meet the challenges that they're facing when it comes to, well, I don't have information on this individual that is, hitting this point in the community, and I'm tasked with designing, a specific tailored intervention for that individual. So there's definitely a lot of nuance in the space, and so that's why we've led with a strategic consulting approach. And then from there, once we really identify the problems that we're trying to solve for, start talking about solutions.
Okay. Very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, as you look to grow, then how do you market your capabilities, right? How do you make the right inroads in the right organizations? And do you have particular case studies, proof points that you use to really show the value and impact?
Yeah, marketing in this space is an interesting topic because, it is very relationship centric, as is a lot of business. But if you come in at all salesy in this space, you're not going to get a conversation. And so we really have to focus on how can we shift that paradigm a little bit and think about adding value immediately out of the gate to build trust, to build that relationship, such that we can begin to have more dialogue. Our sales cycle is pretty long. I mean, anywhere from 6 to 12 months sometimes to get these organizations to see the vision for where they can go if they start thinking about how to become more data driven. And so for us, what has helped immensely is, as much as possible, creating evidence that the data and tech solutions that we're implementing is actually a part of the greater good of making an impact. And so what I mean by that is we've been able to demonstrate a lot in Dayton, especially where we've been aggregating data in Dayton since 2018. And so I'll give you a quick example. Public Health Dayton and Montgomery County houses what's called a quick response team. What that means is it's a team of peer support specialists that have prior lived experience that are now going out and working with people that are in active addiction or active recovery to help get them connected to services. About 4 years ago, we worked with another company called Core Data, who owns a care coordination platform. They're VC backed, but very similar to us and being community focused. And we integrated a real-time hospital data feed in Dayton so that they could get real-time referrals to respond to people while they were even still in the emergency department. 4 years later, then, after we have that data, we've been able to show that even one interaction with one of those peer supporters reduces hospital utilization, reduces interactions with Dayton Police Department, reduces the total charges, billable charges that we're seeing at the hospitals, which is very relevant when we're talking about things like Medicaid costs. And so we try to create as much of that evidence with the data as possible. So then when we're going to talking to state level agencies, et cetera, or even other localities, we can paint that picture to say, hey, here's the end state. The end state is that we can really get specific on what we can measure on the back end. Here's the things that we have to do to get there.
Okay. Hey, great examples and very powerful. You talk about kind of real-time data. I think a lot of us have personal experiences in the healthcare system of, data being kind of disjointed, but hey, with the power when you can bring it all together and real time, right? Kind of. So as you think through that, you talked about refounding the company. It sounds like a pivot. So maybe walk us through a key challenge or two you've had to overcome during your time in leadership with Ascend.
There's been a lot of things. It's been a wonderful experience for me because when I came to Ascend, I had no prior experience in running a business. I had no prior experience in managing a team. And so it was literally a crash course going from data scientist to CEO of the company in a matter of 5 to 6 years, and just learning the dynamics and learning through making mistakes. And so, for us, it's been a combination of things. The space is interesting to navigate from a funding and revenue standpoint, right? So we're not always getting paid out of the operational budgets of these entities. We're often collaborating with them to go after state level grants and things of that nature. So we have to get very creative on how we align our funding sources. So growth has been a challenge, and sustainability, just in terms of how to structure the team, how to structure the offering such that we can really dial in on what's going to work in this space from a profitability standpoint. I mean, at the end of the day, Ascend is a for-profit company. Like, if you kind of look at our website or if you interact with us, you're going to get a very strong sense of this nonprofit style value add, but also we're a business. Like, we have to make money to sustain the team, because at the end of the day, we still have data scientists, engineers, user experience. Like, doesn't matter industry, like the market for these individuals is still the same. And so really thinking intently about the revenue generation model. I'd say there's also the perception a lot of the things that we're doing is being a little far ahead. We're not a VC backed company. We don't have investment dollars. Everything that we do is on a consulting basis, and we're beginning to work on that to think about more recurring revenue streams. But we have to find the revenue on a year-to-year basis, right? And so we also have to find that balance between being quote unquote innovative and leading out front, and actually finding things that align with the needs and the challenges that the customers are having today. So kind of dialing in on that sweet spot to figure out, okay, how can we come in and solve problems and challenges that these organizations have today while still setting the tone for challenging the status quo, right? When you think about like data, especially HIPAA data, well, there's a lot of nuance to consider in that, right? When we're talking about especially mental health. So think about like suicide attempts, suicide ideation. Well, there's some ethics in there. There's some morality in there. There's privacy to consider. So how do we create mechanisms to which, yes, we can get people connected to services, and it adheres to the policies and procedures of HIPAA, and it considers the ethics and the privacy of the individual in not just the policy way, but also in the, hey, if we're going to get somebody connected, they have to be willing to get to connected. So if they feel, fear or intruded upon when they're interacted with one of these response teams, like that's something to look at. So there's a ton of nuance in this space. And so I think as we've continued to work year over year and just continued to be resilient through a lot of the obstacles and challenges, we've slowly but surely begun to found our way into, something that looks to be really promising when we think about where we want to go in the next 3 to 5 years.
So as you talk about looking forward there over the next few years, what's the challenge you see on the horizon, kind of the next hurdle that you're going to have to get over?
Yeah, the big fundamental thesis again goes back to data. If we can pull data together across the continuum, we believe we can make an impact on care coordination and service delivery, ultimately getting the people that we care about connected to services and on a better trajectory. We've done that in Ohio across 15 different jurisdictions. We have a lot of aspirations to do some of these things at a state level. And again, there's a bridge to cross there, right? So because we're a home rule state, because a lot of that policy is created at the local level, we've got to navigate the nuance there, create the evidence and the common address some of the common challenges that all jurisdictions and counties have, and then begin to paint the picture for a state of, hey, while it's technically feasible today, here's some of the systems and processes that need to be in place for us to be able to execute this at scale. And so that's kind of the next leap, is beginning to think about like going from local operations, not that we'll ever go away from that, but continuing to build on that such that we can get more state level buy-in and support, thinking about some of those things that are immediately scalable that we could be doing. Something as simple as many organizations in the community have no idea when their patient hits the ED with an overdose or a suicide attempt, et cetera. So closing that gap with real-time notification systems and things like that could be done today across Ohio at scale. However, again, backing up, there has to be some advocacy for the systems and processes that need to be put in place first. So from there, then, like, I think we could create a data model in which, combines the strategy and the solutions for how to create a connected data exchange when we think about the community and behavioral health space, and go in and do first the consulting and then align some of the solutions that are necessary. But for now, again, like we still got a long bridge to cross when it comes to going from local to the state level in Ohio. I'm sure there will be a lot more lessons learned. And so we're focused on that right now.
So, we talk with most for-profit businesses, they've got some line of sight to what their competitors are doing, what's happening in the marketplace there. I'm curious, obviously you got a unique business here. What do you, or who do you view as competition, right? And how do you overcome that? Or is it more awareness of even the capabilities?
I think, when I think about immediate competition, there's a lot of companies out there that are building really incredible technology solutions that are capable of aligning care coordination across the community. I think where we're trying to differentiate ourselves is getting a lot more strategic and ground level with the clients, right? Really, really, I've seen a lot of companies come in, implement a solution, and they're not listening. They're not coming in. They don't have a solid account team, because we've been in an interesting position with some of our clients to procure technologies where we don't necessarily do that kind of work as that strategic consultant of like recommending off the shelf things that can be brought in. And, the big mistake I see made is like they don't understand the space. When you think about more of the government and true community health space, like working with a hospital is one thing. Working with some of these bespoke organizations within the community, it's a whole different thing because, again, like you got to build trust there. And so we're really doubling down on the relationships and operating at the ground level such that as we desire to advocate at the state level, we can really paint a picture of how is this going to make a meaningful difference, especially on some of the things that they care about, such as reducing cost. Like some of those hard metrics to say, if we implement and fund millions of dollars worth of these programs, or whatever it may be, how do we know that it's actually going to make a measurable difference? So I think there's a lot of companies out there building a lot of great technologies. We are one of them. I'd say we do a better job of first leading with that strategy component to help these organizations get to the point where they can truly adopt the technology.
You already hit on this briefly, but 3 to 5 years down the road, what's your vision? Where do you see the organization, your capabilities, and how you're positioned in the marketplace?
I think 3 to 5 years we're still in Ohio. I'd say 5 years ago I would have said like, oh yeah, we're going to be in other states by then, and I want to be aspirational. I want to be ambitious. I also want to be realistic. Like we have a lot of work yet to do in Ohio. It's our home state. I think Ohio is on the leading edge of the work that they're funding, sponsoring, guiding, facilitating from a behavioral health standpoint. And so we want to continue to align with that. And I'd say even just looking out 3 years, we've got a couple of product roadmaps that we're working on, and solutions that are beginning to come into the stages of beyond requirements gathering and design and getting into actual development, that they're going to be 24-month builds. So getting those in alone, then doing the testing, the data collection, and then again, going back to the state to say, hey, here's what we found. Here's what we think we can do better. Here's the opportunities. So 3 to 5 years, I think we're hopefully got the attention of the state and some of the impact that could be made at a much higher level than just working at the local level.
Yeah, because it sounds like even once you develop that new capability, that commercialization aspect of how you get it into market and the various different markets and constituents, you can kind of do it piece by piece, right? Just because of the way things are tied together or not tied together, right? So,
Yeah, that's right. And again, like we're not investment backed, and um, right now I don't have any plans to take it there. So we really have to be mindful of more slow intentional growth and funding everything that we do in a creative way that combines again the consulting element plus beginning to get these solutions that we can have more repeatable recurring revenue coming in.
so often, the most important decisions we make as leaders is the who, right? So I'm curious how you think about your team, how you focus on development of your team and retaining the top talent and attracting key talent. Obviously, you've got some unique skills, I'm sure, on your team, some unique experiences with healthcare and data analytics and that. So how do you keep the team aligned and moving forward together?
So first and foremost, purpose. My team, especially the ones that have been around for a while, are where they are because they know that the work they're doing is meaningful. They are incredibly hardworking, incredibly committed. This is my favorite topic. So we could probably go long on this one, but I had, again, like I said in the beginning, like I had people that saw things in me that I couldn't see for myself. When I came to Ascend, I didn't look at myself as a leader. And so it will be something I always point back to as the formative experience for me to step into leadership. And I'm going to give that same experience to my team. So my three directors are in their first time leadership positions, and they are absolutely killing it. And that is again because have made a lot of mistakes to get to this point, but really put them in a position to support them in doing the work, right? And that was a hard transition for me, especially going from COO and more operational focus, switching to CEO, where it was less of, more of the integrator of tying all the functions together and getting hands-on to sitting up top and seeing the big picture and thinking about how I can support the team in terms of removing blockers and barriers, but also knowing when to stay hands off and allowing them to do the work. And that's my mindset is like they are incredibly capable of not only performing the responsibilities they have within their functions, but then developing the people within their teams to take on and that cascades down. And so we focus a lot on maintaining the relationships that we have. We focus a lot on, hey, how do we align with our values? How do we create a workplace that is enjoyable so people aren't getting the Sunday scaries and they actually enjoy coming to work, and also on the dynamics between work and life, right? So finding that balance as a small company where We have limited resources, right? As a small consulting firm, we need to make sure that we're staying on top of the projects that we have throughout the year while also making sure we set the team up to live their lives. So people are getting married, people are buying houses, people are having babies, and so we want to be in supportive of that. And what I've found over the past few years and really stepping into this position is that if I want people to care about the work that they do, I have to demonstrate that I genuinely care about them, showing up for them. So more often than not, they got a sick kid, go take care of them. They're buying a house, like take a week off, do what you need to do. Such that when I come calling on the weekend, it's like, hey, we got a pitch on Monday evening. We're not even close to being ready for it. I need some weekend hours. Like they're saying, no problem, and I think that makes the difference.
Okay. Well, hey, building upon that, Josh, a lot of folks who are kind of earlier in their entrepreneurial journey here. What would you share as would have been your keys to success?
Um, you know, One, who I surrounded myself with. So I had people that, again, saw things in me that I didn't see for myself. They opened doors for me, really strong mentors. Like I cannot speak highly enough of, the value of mentorship and seeking it, not waiting for it to come to you, but seeking it. And diverse mentorship. And what I mean by that is like, okay, somebody that knows business, somebody that knows culture development, somebody that knows the financial side really well, like really surrounding ourselves, not only within our organizations, but outside of our organizations that with people that we can go to. And that was huge for me over the years of not only having people within the organization, but having other CEOs in Dayton that I could go have coffee with and ask questions. And most importantly, surrounding yourself with people that will tell you the hard truth. I sat down many times with guys and gals that just looked at me and said, do you hear what you just said? Like, really challenge yourself and think differently. So that's a big one. I'd say, like, especially for founders starting a small company, and then for the ones that make it to a point of even hitting 10 people and then going from 10 to 20 and then 20 to 50, 50 to 100. Even in those early stages, you see big dynamic shifts between, the founder still being sort of an individual contributor as, like, let's say an engineer, for instance, and then having to switch to CEO mode and lead a team. And I think that's one of the biggest things from a leadership standpoint that needs to be focused on first is that switch from individual contributor to the first leadership position, in that, like, okay, it's no longer the value you create is not what you do, it's what you empower others to do, it's what you align others to do, right? There's empowerment's one thing, making people, giving them development and growth opportunities, et cetera, but also doing that across the entire team such that everybody's aligned, swimming in the right direction. Like that's not easy. And so those are two initial that come to mind.
Okay, great points of listeners. We're writing those down. If not, hit rewind, go back, replay. That's excellent points there. And I think especially around really at the end of the day, the leader's got to build that sense of trust. So folks will have the safe space to tell you what you need to hear, even when they know it might not be that popular, right? But you definitely need that level of openness. So that's great. Josh, our time flies here. So as we look to wrap up here, what are the best ways for folks to connect with you and or to connect and follow Ascend?
Yeah, so ascendinnovations.com. We're working on getting more of our work out there as far as case studies and things of that nature. We'll also post on LinkedIn. Same thing for me personally. Like if you want to learn more about me or something I said resonates with you, you're in Dayton, you want to have a coffee or whatnot, reach out to me on LinkedIn.
All right. Josh, as we wrap, what are you inspired by today?
I am inspired by watching people who do what they do and accomplish amazing things regardless of other people and circumstances. I think there's a lot of things, especially in entrepreneurship, where you're trying to do something cutting edge or something new or something different. There's always going to be A, obstacles in your way, and B, people who tell you somebody's already doing that, or I don't believe you're actually going to get anywhere. So I think, watching those people that can kind of take that inward focus and have that belief and curiosity and courage to go after the things they believe in. Love watching it.
All right. Hey, nothing can motivate like someone telling you it can't happen, right? kind of stuff.
That's right.
So you gotta love it. So Josh Gratsch, thank you for sharing your story. Great background. Encourage folks to reach out and to connect with him. Follow Ascend on LinkedIn. Also check them out on their website at ascend-innovations.com. And again, to our viewers, we're thrilled to have you here today. Again, we encourage you to hit like on this episode, but also hit the subscribe button so you can receive future messages as well from other inspiring leaders. So, Josh Gratsch, thank you so much. And to our viewers, thank you. We hope you all have a terrific day.